Okay, welcome back to the Manana No Mas podcast, folks. My name is Kurt Van Anen, your host of Manana No Mas and everything Manana No Mas online. And today I'm thrilled. I keep promising my listeners that we're going to have a guest. I keep promising people that we're going to have some other voices on. And today is our lucky day. We've got Robert Pandya on the line. And Robert, if I've messed up your last name, please correct me. But Robert is working hard and pumping the pump in Powersports. He's out at the Progressive International Motorcycle Shows. He's doing some incredible work. He works with Give a Shift, which is an initiative to help Powersports. And I think we really need to give him some of our time and our attention. Robert, why don't you take over and give us a little synopsis about what you've got going on?
Well, thanks a lot, Kurt. You did great on the last name, better than some of my relatives at a family reunion. So congratulations there. Way to step it up. Good job. The work recently has been really focused in on new ridership. I had an opportunity to work with Polaris. I was the Victory PR manager for 10 years, and then I had an opportunity to launch Indian with 3 years concurrent to that Victory stint, and that contract came to an end, and I turned 50, and there was I kind of decided I wanted to take a break. There was other agencies that were kind of fighting for the contract, and I thought, I kind of don't feel like getting into the fight. And so I let it go, and those guys they're really great. Actually, I got a motorcycle as a going away gift from Polaris. So I had a really good time with those guys. Yeah, they gave me a pick of any motorcycle I wanted. So, which is really, really cool. So fantastic people over there. But that after what was a good 20-year stint being a PR manager for brands, in turning 50 and being able to take care of my father until he passed away and a few things like that, it started to give me that opportunity to sit back and look at the industry with a new clean pair of goggles, and then sort of not absorbing the regular reports and not being in front of it all the time for about a year. Is where the Give a Shift initiative sort of came out of, because I wanted to catch up quickly, and I thought the best way to do that would be to get some of my Powersports cohorts together and have a conversation. And honest to God, I thought it was going to be like a couple of 6-packs and a 2-page white sheet. And it turned into a much bigger thing, and frankly, bigger than I ever expected it to be. And we ended up with 40 applications for a 25-person room, and we had a really great conversation. So if anybody really wants to dig into that stuff, that's all at motogivashift.com. It's all archived there. There's a few of my own podcast interviews, but the center ring of that exercise was a report that outlined some of the key factors in motorcycling, and we transcribed everybody's comments. So if any of your listeners are in the powersports industry in some way and they want to sort of be a fly on the wall for what I think was a very smart but pretty wide-ranging conversation, the entire transcript, 79 pages of us talking for, again, what I thought was going to be about, maybe an hour and a half turned into 2.5 hours, because we were just having such a good chat, And so my recent work has been focused in on new ridership. The industry sort of whinges and whines about, we need to get new riders. And I'm like, well, what's the compelling programs? And frankly, outside of go to a dealer and sign up for a rider training course, I mean, there wasn't anything that compelling, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's great product. I'm not taking away from the product. We've never had such a phenomenal range of product. But in terms of a program, there really wasn't anything. And the two things that struck me were we can get riders onto motorcycles faster than what we do, rather than saying, hey, go over to this dealership, commit $300, 3 days time, buy some gear. I mean, that all told, like for the average person, that's about a, whatever, $1,000, $1,500 decision to go do that just to see if they like it.
Yeah, for an experiment.
And so that's really hard. And then the other part of it too is it's just a generational issue where I'm really tired of old guys whinging that millennials just don't buy bikes anymore, because that's just not the interest is there, and we have ways to address it and fix it, and every day we waste is just more lost opportunity for the entire industry. So I worked with the international motorcycle shows. I came up with this Discover the Ride program. Basic theory is, if you can ride a bicycle, then I can teach you the basics of riding a motorcycle in 10 minutes. And we do that through our partnership with Zero Motorcycles, who give us, acceleration and speed limited motorcycles and Yamaha powered bicycles. So you give this really neat electric assist bicycles that kind of prove you can balance, in front of us, but a chance to ride a power assist bicycle. And then the other initiative that I'm proud to be the first named ambassador for the Strider Bike's All Kids Bike Foundation. And if your listeners go to allkidsbike.org, the simple goal there is to have a rack of Strider bikes sitting right next to that rack of basketballs in every PE class in every elementary school in America. And that's 48 million children under 11 years old. So while the industry whinges about, well, this new whiz-bang product will help us get more riders in and stuff like that, instead of that, going to the widest part of the funnel where every child is equal, boy, girl, black, white, rich, not, religious, not, whatever. Every kid in kindergarten is equal. And if 48 million kids under 11 years old today learn how to ride and balance on two wheels just by sheer force of numbers, we fixed the motorcycle industry. So
Yeah.
the two things I've been working on is, like, how do we make riders tomorrow? And then how do we make riders in, as little as 5 years? And the stuff in the middle, frankly, I've kind of given up on that. I feel like it's just not happening. And I don't know that my one voice is going to be the one to kind of make it happen. So.
No, and to be honest, it's such a lot for one person to kind of put a burden on their shoulders that heavy, right? I mean, you got to pick your sweet spot and roll with that, and that's, I'm real big on fixed operations and helping dealerships on the service side of things, and so I know that's my sweet spot. Whereas like Garage Composites is great at running 20 groups and talking about sales. It's like, if we all just kind of picked our sweet spot, then I think we could make kind of an impact. You mentioned the Strider bike thing. And when my son was learning how to ride a bicycle, I literally just took the pedals off the thing. It was like a Spider-Man, one of those little 16-inch bikes, and my daughter was tooling around the neighborhood. And as soon as she started tooling around the neighborhood without training wheels, man, my son, who's 3 years younger, is like, I want to ride too. Take my wheels off. And with the pedals, he couldn't get things rolling right. I took the pedals off and he used it just like a balance bike. And within 2 days, we were back to pedals and he was trying to race his sister down the street. It's amazing, and I'm a former rider coach for Rider's Edge and stuff like that. And so when you take a look at that program and the adult-centered learning and how people learn to ride, the balance bike is just it's just a no-brainer for kids to get started. I think that's awesome.
It really is. And I mean, thousands of parents have done something similar, to what you've done, right? Ryan McFarland, who started Strider, he's like, I started this company because I was greedy. I wanted to ride dirt bikes with my kid as early as possible. And what he noticed was that, his kids were starting to get, the generation of kids were starting to get trucked around in minivans to go to karate camp or whatever. And he's like, man, we used to ride bicycles everywhere we went. Now, situations change. There's a million SUVs and people not paying attention and, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't mean that bicycling can't be a fundamental part of somebody's life, that you can't throw it in the back of that minivan and head out out into the country and go mountain biking or whatever. So the empowerment that the freedom of two wheels gives to a kid who's 8, 9, 10 years old or younger, that's when their brain is still like really forming, and so that little nugget is going to live inside their head for the rest of their lives. And once it's in there, it's there. That ability to balance is something that every parent sees, kids' first steps and so on and so forth. Balancing on two wheels should be just part of that process. And the rewards, what it gives you, even if that child, and the vast majority of them won't, even if those kids don't ultimately get into motorcycling, the ability to balance on two wheels and control your direction and put your knees in the breeze kind of thing is just such a compelling thing for humanity, particularly as we're getting more congested in cities, as we are getting, as we have environmental issues, as, autonomous vehicles can only take you so far and blah, blah, blah. And that you've got subscription services like Revel electric scooters and all these last mile initiatives and things like that. Balance on two wheels is clearly going to be one of those things of the future. And why wouldn't you as a parent want your kid to have that ability as young as possible? And that's what really Ryan's point is, and that's what All Kids Bike is about. I put Honda on the spot a few times, but it's because it's the easiest example of a single decision can fundamentally change a community. And that is the All Kids Bike program costs $4,000, but that's a 5-year program. Includes the curricula, helmets, technical services, warranty, parts, blah, blah, blah. So it's turnkey for a school. Mm-hmm. $4,000 divided by 5 years, not a whole lot of money. There are 17 elementary schools in California where Honda America's kids go to. Those 17 schools could be funded for less than $70,000, which is a rounding error for any of Honda's budgets. And for 5 years, they have their own case study of their own employees' kids learning how to ride and balance on two wheels. And that costs literally like almost nothing to them. And they can just sit there in the office and they will see their own employees' kids learn and grow, and then want to come to the campus and ride, balance bikes around the campus, and then eventually learn how to ride CRF 50s, and then, connect with the local dealer in Torrance to see how CRF 50 sales are going. Then lo and behold, 5 years from now, those 11-year-olds are getting licenses and buying, whatever the new Honda Ruckus and or a Grom or something like that. And it's so easy when you think about the cost of what a single advertisement might do versus the impact of what 25 or 30 balance bikes can do in a PE class in a major school to become that consistent asset. I don't play basketball anymore, but because there was a rack of basketballs, I understand the game. I can watch a game and understand what's going on and appreciate what's going on. And it's such a powerful thing at that age. And I really hope that I'd love for, Polaris to decide to do that in Minneapolis, and for Harley Davidson to try and, over the course of the next 5 years, fund every school in Wisconsin. Let's go big. Why not? Yeah. Because they can empower their dealers to do the same thing. They can empower their suppliers to do the same thing in their own community. Once we do that, we just fix ourselves, regardless of myopia, regardless of products, regardless of your failing advertising budget and blah, blah, blah. If we create a wider base of interest, we win. And then to the point of you being on the training side of things, we make it such a challenge to learn friction zone right off the bat. And we're trying to we're whining about selling to a generation of millennials who don't know how to drive stick shift and blah, 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 but then the first thing we teach them is like how a clutch works, instead of going like, hey, how about you guys over here at Recluse Clutch come up with an inexpensive clutch pack for the Harley Davidson Street 500. And then we'll put that in there. So you have an automatic clutch. We'll put the bike down into first gear, pull the shift lever off of it, put a throttle limiter into the throttle housing, and make sure that the bike can only go 20 miles an hour top speed with an automatic clutch. And we only need 1 or 2 of those bikes per class. Once you do that, then you've separated the right side of the bike from the left side of the bike from a functional standpoint. And you've made it much, much, much easier for somebody to understand the basics of throttle management, how the brakes work, and turn your head to go around the corner. So once you've done that, it's so easy. And anybody who doesn't think it's easy, just come to an IMS show, because we literally are training hundreds of people a day on motorcycles that exact same way. And it works.
I took my son to the IMS show, and
oh, cool.
We had a blast. You know, we went down to the one at Long Beach, and we did the Yamaha bikes. I got on the Yamaha bicycle with my this is back when I was still employed at Suzuki, so I had the Suzuki polo and the Suzuki jacket and the Suzuki hat.
Yep.
Riding a Yamaha bicycle, and
right.
Man, we had a blast. and then Hayden starts going, "On your left," and starts passing people like crazy. And we went over to watch, like, learn how to ride a wheelie, and we went over to watch, you know, all these other things. And then my wife taps me and she goes, "Hayden wants to go back to the bikes." And I go, "Okay." So he goes back over there, and he just went back through line. It was near the end of the day, and you guys didn't really have a line for that setup. He must have rode that Yamaha bicycle 45 minutes, you know, and we could not get him out of there. And what really surprised me about the electric bikes is, and I'm an avid bicyclist, road bike, mountain bike, BMX, all of it. It's not what you expect. The bike doesn't do all the work. You still have to pedal. It's pedal assist. It's all these things that, you know, avid bicyclists complain about with e-bikes. It really doesn't exist. And I literally thought right then and there, I'm like, I got to get one of these for my wife. She complains that, you know, I see the tops of mountains and all kinds of cool things. And she's like, "Oh, you get to go to the coolest places." And I'm like, well, if I got you an e-bike, you know, you could ride along with me and go see it all. And there's so much out there.
It's really empowering, especially, you know, when the youngest member of the family wants to go ride, and all of a sudden parents can't keep up. I mean, the next option is, well, we got to get bikes. And what do? We just created the Honda commercial where everyone's, you know, wearing their matching jerseys and on little red dirt bikes riding around the desert together, and the whole family riding thing. We just literally created that on bicycles. And so that can translate into moto world, especially if you project to what the next, you know, 5 to 10 years of electric motorcycles look like. That can project into a family riding dynamic in almost no time. And in a world where things are getting a lot more automated and a lot more sort of hands off, the analog reward for riding any motorcycle is seriously compelling. And there's still nothing that can fit in your life as easy as a motorcycle that can expand your travels, that can create community, that can challenge you as a person, than just slotting a motorcycle into your garage. And you know, I mean, I've said many times now in interviews and that sort of thing that our job as enthusiasts is not to try and get 97% of the people who don't ride to ride. Our job as enthusiasts is to get our 3% to get us to 4%. If we do that and we increase the market by a third, man, everyone's in a good mood at that point.
Well,
and it's not that hard. It really isn't.
I'm going to tell you where one level of confusion is really set in for me as an avid cyclist. And that is, you know, I would commute to the office in Bray. It's 24 miles. And in Southern California, that takes an hour and a half by car. And it takes 35 to 40 minutes by motorcycle because lane sharing is legal in California. And I was amazed, for the last 3.5, 4 years, nobody's lane sharing with me. I mean, I'd see four or five motorcycles, commuting to the office, and everybody is just sitting in their cars, drinking coffee, chatting on their cell phones. And I can't wrap my head around the idea that, riding a motorcycle is going to save me 12 hours a week. And I don't see how there's not more people signing up for that program. And that's just one of the most obvious for me, right? And just like you, I thought, I can't fix the industry overnight, but I made a quick little video about the benefits of lane sharing to show, like, it's not scary. Like, once you do it once or twice, once you get a feel for the distance between the cars, there's a lot of space there. It's not, and I actually feel safer between the cars than I do in a lane anymore, because with all the cell phone usage and stuff, I feel like a sitting target if I'm in a lane pacing traffic. So it was a really
I
unique
think that,
thought.
Yeah, that, the preying on your fears thing is one of the ways that sort of generation, or I should say young baby boomers and Generation X raise their kids, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm 53 in March. And in my youth is when Ted Turner invented CNN and we first got cable and stuff like that. And so all of a sudden the world's murders were right in your living room.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the stuff that happened in downtown Chicago, near where I lived. But it was, bad stuff in Atlanta, bad stuff in New York City, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden the world, like the evil of the world was like really funneled directly into your house. So what that did for the psychology of an entire generation, layered on top of a hugely increased divorce rate, which produced a generation of latchkey kids. Those kids, me included, were told to, come home, you can watch TV, just do your homework, make a sandwich, and the key's hidden over here. And so it's not shocking that Generation X grew up and, and the march of screens in our lives created this digital pacifier. The reality is that's not going to change. It's not going to go away. And some people choose to be stuck in traffic for an hour and a half so they can talk on the phone. They're like, this is my me time. Some people that's like a comfort zone for them, right? To get away with, swiping while you're driving. Some of us as motorcyclists are like, I just want to get to the office faster.
I just want to get
I just want to get there so where I can, get where I need to be and do my job over there. And that challenge to communicate that is huge, and it's not something that we do as an industry. There's no single call to action for the category of motorcycling, right? There's no got milk for motorcycling.
Yeah, no.
And there are plenty of individual slogans for brands, to enjoy their particular brand for whatever its brand value is. But for a non-rider to discover motorcycling in a general broad way, there's, it's just not out there. And anything that purports to be out there is not compelling. And that's a real shame. This was a thing you may have seen it on LinkedIn, but when the holiday season comes around, the entire industry should be behind a gift motorcycling initiative, right? If every brand expressed their own version of gift motorcycle, whether it's a Harley Davidson onesie for a newborn, or it's a gift certificate for a rider's edge training course, or if it's whatever the hell it would be, or a CRF 50 with a little red bow on it underneath the Christmas tree. That initiative, you can't tell me that won't work, that won't drive people into dealerships during, soft months in the many parts of the country that are cold, to go in and buy, a Fox motocross jersey for for their teenager or something like that. And just that simple a thing swept across the entire industry can fundamentally impact our industry. And current leadership, and I'm pointing at the AMA and the MIC, are not taking that mantle to challenge our own industry to do that sort of stuff. I will give AMA credit for supporting Scott Harden's +1 initiative, but it was like sort of +1 and done. I mean, they did it once, and then it's like, it's like, hey, we got to do this like constantly all the time. And
there's a lot of check
again,
the
we
box
can
going
fix
on.
ourselves. Yeah, exactly right, Kurt. Exactly right.
So one thing that keeps coming up in my mind as I listen to you, and it's a fundamental question. And I run into this in my side of the industry with training fixed operations. And that is, where is the responsibility originated from? And I know that the correct answer is all of us, all of us. But at the OEM level, I know that the OEMs are in their conference rooms and they're saying, look, these aren't our retail businesses. The dealers should front the cost of promoting their own business. We simply wholesale the product. It's up to them to retail it. And then the dealers are going, where's the support? How come the OEMs aren't driving people to our businesses for us? We support them. We buy their wholesale product. We need their help in moving the retail inventory. And what we end up with is manufacturers sitting on warehouses full of bikes that are in crates for 2 and 3 years. And it's frustrating because it's like a chicken or egg thing. You're waiting for someone to make the investment or double down and promote the industry. And it's like everyone's waiting for someone else to do something.
But the opportunity is to widen the big end of the funnel.
Yeah.
We're busy talking about, nuts and bolts and brick and mortar. But we have to increase the interest for motorcycling.
So
and
the glass isn't half empty or
that's,
half full. You just need a new glass.
We just make the damn glass bigger.
There you go.
I mean, it's seriously, maybe it's half full, but just make it bigger. Just get more people coming into this process. Dealers can be their own worst enemy because it's very easy for, these are broad statements here. I know a lot of fantastic dealers out there. Okay?
Yeah.
But the motorcycle industry is a place where you sort of get into, if you're going to be in the sales world, you sort of learn your way, and then you decide, I can make a lot more money at the Volvo dealership. I'm going to go do that.
Yep.
And then they're gone. So people like sort of process through the motorcycle industry. We all know that like keeping a good parts counter guy is one of the most difficult things at a dealership, right?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
The churn is unbelievable, right? And so we clearly are not making motorcycling like a career choice. It's just a process to move on to the next thing. And so it's really up to dealer principals to bring community into their dealership in a compelling way. That it's easy to say, well, do the Goldwing Club. Well, the Goldwing Club thing is all falling apart because that demographic is they're aging out.
Yeah.
But when I turn around and I look at Super 73,
that's cool.
They're a really cool company and they're really smart in how they're created. And you can't tell me that Super 73's activities don't mirror the Honda You Meet the Nicest People as applied to a millennial generation, because they're doing custom bikes. They're doing these like meetups in the middle of, oddball places and stuff like that. And they are creating their own community. So why can't a dealer do that? To go back to the all kids bike example, if 8 dads can get $500 each, they've just funded a school for 5 years. Yeah. And you're telling me that with our personal networks that we can't find 7 other people who can donate $500, maybe it might take a year, fine. But then, a year later, those 8 families are presenting an entire PE curricula to their local school, which is only going to make things better. And a dealer can decide to take that on. An OEM parts manufacturer can do exactly the same. So it's really, it's widening the appeal of motorcycling and getting our heads out of spreadsheets and trying to figure out how we're going to move the metal in the next 6 months. And starting to, here's one thing, Kurt, is like, this conversation is great because we don't have this conversation as an industry. That's why Give a Shift like sort of came up.
Yeah.
When do we sit and have critical discussions about our industry in an open way? You have to be an MIC member to go to an MIC meeting, unless they hold a public session, which is going to be an hour and a half, and that's not enough time for all this stuff.
Yeah. And
So,
one thing you mentioned about Give a Shift that I want to make sure we get in this podcast is you mentioned the full printout, but you've got a really good summary in there. That first
yeah,
download is the summary, and people can cut to the chase and see what was discussed.
yeah, I think it's great. Guido Ebert, my friend and coworker for some time, wrote a fantastic state of the industry report that now is 2 years old, but all I would have to do is like sort of change the dates on it because nothing's fundamentally changed in 2 years, which is really sad. We want to revisit that. And I decided when I did that I'm just going to let it percolate for a while and just kind of see what happens. Right.
Yeah.
To date, I don't require your email address. I don't want to know who you are if you're downloading it. And I have no idea how many people have forwarded it to coworkers or whatever. But to date, that summary report has been downloaded 7,000 times.
Nice.
There are not 7,000 people in this industry. I mean, they're not on the national OEM level. So just to think about the sheer volume of people who are interested in having this conversation, and where a GE Financial or a Parts Unlimited or any of these like sort of a Geico Insurance can sit and decide to host a conference to actually have these conversations and to make things better through discourse. The quick parallel there is when you go to a track day and a rider coach comes up to you and says, "Hey man, you can get through that corner a lot better if you turn your head and try this on your body position and blah, blah, blah." We love that. We love that coaching to be better out on the track. But God forbid you give that kind of coaching to a business to be better at business, because our own self-arrogance of, "Oh, I got this. It's my business. I can figure this out." That sort of myopia, that closed, that blinder perspective is one of the things that really hurts us, because we've got 3 different generations, boomers, Gen X, and millennials, who are all in control of this industry right now. And we all speak different languages. And until we get together and have compelling conversations and get behind like gift motorcycling type initiatives, we're just all these singular voices. And that glass is going to stay, pretty dry.
Well, I'm friends with one of those singular voices, and he showed me firsthand that every thought I had about millennials and younger folks was absolutely incorrect. He actually gives these kids like a frame and access to his warehouse and says, "Hey, I'll give you a bike if you build it yourself, and I'll help you. I'll supervise you. I'll walk you through this process, but you build it." And I just watched a 14-year-old boy assemble, an old Triumph 500 that he's going to race Barstow to Vegas on. And, when you see people actually commit and get dedicated to earn the goal at the end, dude, that never changed. Generationally, that never changed. We need to understand that these generations communicate differently than we do, and we need to figure out that magic sauce.
That's the fact of it, your friends at Suzuki, your old buddies over there. To me, the hero of the lineup is not the GSXR or the RMZ. The hero of the lineup is the Van 200,
which they discontinued last year.
Which is done. Which I need to go buy one before they totally go away. But
what a great little bike!
I want to do. It's fantastic. And so if you imagine. Suzuki presents the Van a Go-Go on Pismo Beach, featuring a sunset bonfire race. if that's not like Instagram orgasm, I don't know what is. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it
Yeah.
takes elements of the trog, it takes custom bike scene, brings it in, it takes hooligan racing, brings it in, it takes beginner bikes, it's the surf scene, it's all that stuff all rolled up together. And if you had like a real basic, you know, course laid out on the beach, and you had little bonfire apex markers, um, that's epic, you
Yeah.
know, and that's approachable. And I don't care if you're um, a jaded elite road racer
Oh, it's still
or a
fun.
brand new. Everyone's going to love that. And that's the fun, that's the Suzuki's opportunities to be the most fun brand in motorcycling. They could take over the fun side of it. And it's a program like that is the kind of thing where people go like, oh man, I want to be part of this. So
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know or not, but as of last week, me and Suzuki have separated ways, and I'm actually looking at other ways of helping the industry. So, um,
yeah.
it's been super interesting to see things from the inside out, and then
Hmm.
knowing what I can do on the service side, with training dealers. I'm looking real forward to that. When you were talking about your idea with the van, I instantly went to the Royal Enfield. The cost of
Yep.
entry is so small, and the fit and finish is great, and
Yep.
man, I've got friends that were part of that development team for the 650. That's a great little machine.
Yep. It's fantastic. Royal Enfield should be hosting, Colorado pass tours with the Himalayan,
Oh
because
yeah.
anybody who's a hardcore motorcyclist has daydreamed about doing the ride up in Nepal, right? That's become like sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And that's the Edelweiss of this next generation, right?
Yep.
And I want to do it. We're going to probably go do it in 2021. But why can't we do that over the course of the 4-day weekend in Colorado? You could hit like probably 20 passes that are all epic and beautiful and amazing.
Oh yeah.
And if you had a little support truck rolling behind it, and you got these, 20 odd horsepower, super approachable, low seat height, Himalaya 400s that look funky. And I mean, it's, again, it's this Instagram moment
Yeah.
where it's not like, hey, just get off your screen. It's like, no, it's okay. I get it. You want your screen. That's cool. Here's a phone mount for your screen. And then we're going to go up to this great mountain up at the top of the thing where there's no cell reception, but you can take a whole ton of epic pictures that when we get back down for this barbecue dinner,
You can share like crazy.
you can share like crazy and make everyone else wish that they were there, which is, I mean, that's what motorcycle deliver in a new context. And that's an opportunity for Royal Enfield to sponsor the, Cafe Racer Vintage Track Day event featuring the Royal Enfield Cup with, spec racing. I mean, that kind of thing would just be, that's a riot. That's fun. That's
Yeah.
approachable.
And it's affordable.
And yeah, exactly right. And more, I mean, lots of things are affordable, but you don't necessarily want to buy them.
Yeah.
Like I'm not into fishing, but fishing stuff's like super affordable. If I wanted to just go get some fishing stuff, I could do that pretty cheap. We have to celebrate the fact, the approachability of that small bikes, and there is a premium middleweight category. I would say that the Suzuki SV650 kind of
Yep.
lived in that world for a while, but
Wonderful
wasn't
bike.
really presented that way. Fantastic bike, but
Wonderful bike.
and great accessories and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a premium middleweight category of a bike that can easily do 100 miles an hour, that can hang out on the freeway all day long. And it doesn't have to be a 180 horsepower super bike with, TFT dash and 15 throttle modes and blah, blah, blah. So once we get back to the fun of this, we're really back at the truth of motorcycling, and that as an appeal to every generation. And it's just up to us to just keep it fun and keep making it fun.
Well, Robert, I want to be a good steward of your time. I know that we talked about time before we got on the phone and started doing this, and we're coming up against your marker. I want to do this though. I want to, take a moment at the end here and just tell people where they could find you, what events are next over the next month or so, and let's try and get people excited to come and see and throw a leg over something that's electric and fun.
You bet. Yeah, just for people who finally found that pen and piece of paper, if you remember what those are. The website for Give a Shift is motogiveshift.com. I highly encourage you to check out allkidsbike.org and absorb what that's all about. For this weekend, I'm in Cleveland, but next weekend we're in Minneapolis. And then the weekend after that, we wrap up the IMS tour in Chicago, and I'm running the Discover the Ride initiative. So any of your listeners want to come back and visit me back there and chat about anything, I'm happy to do that. And the information for all of that is at motorcycleshows.com. And then after that, I'm doing a little bit of work for a motorcycle tire company. But I don't have a whole lot lined up, frankly. You know, I'm in a fortunate position where I can take these breathers in between, you know, intense work, and you know, build some custom motorcycles and ride my own stuff and have fun, and you know, getting to do that. So I only want to work on stuff that I'm really passionate about and that inspires others to ride these days, and finding that stuff and finding brands that really support it has been a challenge, with IMS being that one exception. They really get it, and they've put their money where their mouth is when it comes to the production of Discover the Ride. So anyway, that's what I'm up to in the next little bit, and I've definitely pissed off a few of my old OEM friends out there who older ones who would love to just sit in their office and, you know, coast towards retirement. And frankly, we don't have time for that. So if anybody listening has decided that they're going to drag their feet in the motorcycle industry, I would kindly show them the exit door and let somebody who has a little more energy come in and take that position, because that's what we need.
Yeah, I can't agree more that we need some new blood running the show. I can't tell you how many times in the last 10 years I've sat in an OEM conference room and watched, you know, old timers generate policy, you know, things for dealers to do. And when I ask, I go, how many of you guys have ever worked at a dealership? And nobody puts a hand up. I'm like, if you haven't been there, how can you write their policy? Like, man, you got to get boots on the ground, and you got to be excited about it. And you have to understand what the challenge is, you know, out there dealing with the public in the real world. And I'm really glad to see that, you know, you're kind of taking the front of that right at the IMS show and being there with the brand new folks. That's kind of cool.
Well, thanks, man. We all have that opportunity. And if every existing licensed or enthusiast motorcyclist were to take it on themselves to bring one more person into the industry a year.
Yep. Bring a friend.
That's it. Plus one. It fixes us, you know? So Scott Harden was spot on. And I encourage anyone to look up that old article that he wrote and just take that as our mantra, you know, plus one a year. If we all do that, we just make our community that much better. And then all of a sudden, consumers are in the driver's seat, not policymakers in corner offices. So
great. Well, folks, I want to thank Robert for jumping on the call today. I know that he's super busy with what he's got going on this time of year. There will be some links in the description of the video. You can click on those and learn more about Robert and some of the things he's up to. And Robert, have yourself an awesome weekend. Good luck at the show this weekend. And hey, I saw you on the news last night too. You were on there with the Mission Cycles, right?
Yeah, with Motorcycle Missions. I'm fortunate to be friends with Crystal Hess and that veteran initiatives. Yeah, so motorcyclemissions.com is a fantastic organization. So, yeah,
great project. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for this episode of Manana No Mas. And Robert, again, thank you so much. And hopefully we can hook up again. I don't think this call was long enough in retrospect. Maybe we need to get this going for part 2, like you suggested before.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. I'd love to do that. And I'd love to respond to any input that maybe your listeners have, you know, so we can give it a little time to molt out there and see what comes back and maybe answer a few questions or get challenged on a few things. So bring it. Let's have a good conversation.
Fantastic, man. Have yourself a great day.
All right. Take care. See you down the road.
Bye-bye.